All right, I think we are good to go here. Once I turn my game down a little bit here. Hey, y'all, thank you for your patience here as we are now live here on Playmakers Corner podcast. Let's exit out of all this stuff and jump to our Twitter page where, we've done a lot of promotion for this episode. Obviously, you can see we got a lot of good things ahead of us today. And, a lot of fun to have talking about this past NAIA women's flag football here. This is our end of the year awards stream, and where we're going to talk about, if you're not familiar from our high school candidacy, we're going to list out 4 contenders for awards. That's Freshman of the Year award, Defensive Playmaker of the Year, Offensive Playmaker of the Year, and last but not least, Most Valuable Playmaker. And yeah, we're just going to go through. I'm going to list off the candidates. I have some information pulled up on some of them, and overall just going to talk some of their game. Then there's going to be 5 votes, all right? If you're familiar and you follow us on Twitter, at Playmakers Corner or at Playmaker Corner, you know that we ran a poll, with all 4 candidates of each award. So that'll be 1 vote, the fan vote, your vote. So make sure to stay tuned to see who wins the fan vote. And then following that, there's also votes from the fellas over at NAIA F-Ball on Twitter. I'm going to make sure to plug those guys as they did submit votes. And, there's 2 of them, so that adds up to 3. And then obviously Coach V and myself for the 4th and 5th votes. So between those 5 votes, we're going to have a winner of each category, and it's going to make for what I think is a fun stream. I always like doing end of the year awards, just recapping, players and everything they've accomplished this year. And overall just addressing all of those things. Let's see, I'm going to change the name of this to NAIA End of the Year Awards Show. Make sure that updates over here. There it is. Oh, look at that. It already updated. So, in case you're just joining, we are talking NAIA End of the Year Awards for flag football. I guess I should specify that. Wow, that's amazing. Look at it just update like that. Kodey is learning technology at an alarming rate. But, all that being said, all that being addressed, let's go ahead and adjust this just a hair and start talking about some of our candidates and what exactly that means. If you guys have any statistics or storylines or anything of that nature that you'd like to contribute, go ahead and jump in the chat and, give us some details. Because, while we did watch a lot of women's flag football this year, we didn't have a tally sheet to, keep track of these stats. And we did try and dig around a little bit on websites and such to get this done. But, all that being said, we've seen their games, we've seen them play, and we have an understanding on, the level of talent in this episode. A lot of these players were all conference or, second team, stuff like that, or, like all freshman team. So, this list is very warranted and valid in a lot of ways. Shout out to Coach V for assembling this list. And then, I kind of put the final stamp on it. Something that I will say, just to clarify before we really jump into this, is, we only have one. You can only be a candidate for one award at a time. That way we can spotlight as many players as possible and, just try and give, like I said, a spotlight to as many players as possible. That's really the only goal. So exiting out of this, we are going to first talk about Freshman of the Year awards, okay? And you can't talk Freshman of the Year without talking about Madison Tingen out of Warner University. She is the quarterback for these Royals here, and she had a really good year. She had multiple efforts where she just poured on touchdowns. I'm almost positive that, she won, like Player of the Week. Here, we could jump into news articles here. Yep, so she was an all-conference player. She's won, Player of the Week or has been a candidate for it, and formed a really good dynamic chemistry, I should say here, with Cynthia Holmes. So you have that contribution, obviously, and you could tell that throughout this year that she was constantly learning, constantly developing, and I think that she did a good job of growing each week, but also showing that, against opponents that, Warner wasn't supposed to let hang around, Madison did a great job of putting those teams away, looking through all of her options, and then obviously, getting her most dynamic playmaker looks and getting her the ball in space, understanding matchups that Cynthia had, and, just being very smart with looking at the field, and definitely impressed, fresh out the gate. Had a really strong start to the season. We managed to talk to, the Warner social media team, and they were very, very excited at the prospect of Madison Tingen and, the upcoming years that they'll have with her under center or out of shotgun, some might say. So, you have all of that going for you. The stats here aren't completely up to date, so I'm not going to go ahead and jump through any of those, just because I feel like if we look at the stats on here, people might be misled because she had way more impact than the stats on here reflect. So, but do know that even in the limited amount of games of teams that did record stats, she had a positive TD to INT ratio, and this was true for the rest of the year. Threw for a bunch of yards, a ton of scores, and, just lit it up overall for this Warner squad. But, now that I just listed off the very first one and gave some background, I'm going to go ahead and list off the rest of the candidates here and then go into more details with each one. So, in addition to Madison Tingen, we also have Caroline Simpson, wide receiver / defensive back of University of St. Mary's, Angel Roman, athlete, offensive, defensive presence for freshman of the year out of Kansas Wesleyan, and last but certainly not least, Addison Orsborn out of Ottawa, who, we talked about how spectacular she played in that championship game, and if you haven't already, it is certainly worth a watch. So go ahead and check that out. That's on YouTube under NFL Flag. You can watch literally all the games from championship weekend and get all caught up on that. And, speaking of people who had a really good championship weekend, Caroline Simpson, the pseudo TikTok star, right? If you don't, go ahead and follow her on TikTok. And, former tackle football player who was recruited to St. Mary's and has made the transition to flag football incredibly well, being an insane athlete, racking up really clutch interceptions on the defensive side of the ball, while also being a bit of a yak machine on the offensive side of the ball. And we saw her find success against multitudes of teams, but, this St. Mary's squad was kind of hurting for, losing their captain near the beginning of this end-of-the-year tournament, and, just dealing with injuries and constant rotation and shuffling and game planning throughout the year. Caroline Simpson was, a little bit of a model of consistency and steady improvement. And, at the wide receiver position, like I said, she did a good job of picking up some yak yards, using good speed, finding gaps in the defense. And, that was enough to make an impact here for first team offense, being at the wide receiver position. And then she was also a second team defense in the KCAC. So all conference player on both sides of the ball, a little bit better on offense. I'm pretty sure she was mainly recruited as a wide receiver, but at defensive back, she did a good job of baiting quarterbacks constantly and, just being able to work in a variety of looks across, her film, and overall just put in a really, really good year for University of St. Mary's. I want to say that she's the sole submission for St. Mary's in these end of the year awards, and for good reason. She just played very, very well and was a dynamic player on both sides of the ball. So, still sticking in the KCAC, this is a pretty KCAC heavy segment here, and that is going to be Angel Roman, the wide receiver / defensive back, similar to Caroline Simpson, but a little bit different in the fact that, she has a little bit of that game sealing or, game swinging plays. And I can go ahead and pull that up in a minute. But Angel here, she was a candidate for Playmaker of the Week or Defensive Player of the Week pretty constantly. Look, on this weekend of March 29th, 2022, right? And this is just one weekend. Oh, get out of here. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Stop it. Okay. She had 2 interceptions, 5 flagpoles, and a pass deflection, 12 flagpoles against Ottawa. And, this doesn't even count maybe some ways that she could have contributed on the offensive side of the ball. And just to go over her numbers real quick, I mean, look, if you hop on over to Kansas Wesleyan here, they have, this huddle page. They have highlights from different games, right? And Angel Roman is just going to sprinkle her way in through a handful of these games, as well as another baller for Kansas Wesleyan who we'll discuss later. But, on the season, or at least what we could research and what we could collect from online, I mean, we obviously have DMs and stuff with some stats, and I will reference them at times, but we want to go off the website most of the time. So if it's possible at all to, wow, that was a sweet play. If it's possible at all to have more stats heading into the future, either on team websites or especially NAIA should probably keep track of it and just do a better job of broadcasting that, then, these are some of the things that we are hoping for. But on the season, what we can find is that she recorded at least 25 receptions for 266 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns, and then on the defensive side of the ball, 38 tackles, 6 interceptions, 8 pass deflections. These are all from the regular season conference only stats, I should clarify. But, found a plethora of ways to make plays on both sides of the ball. And then if we jump back to our Twitter here, I'm going to make sure that I just pull it up first before going through too many of our TMs. But, she did have a 78-yard game-sealing pick 6 here. Let's pull that up over here. Boom. Oh my goodness, what is that? Please. Okay, here we go. So this is against St. Mary's. This is a game where, St. Mary's kind of came back, and then Kansas Wesleyan just snaps here at the end. And this is one of the best plays, I'd say, of Kansas Wesleyan's entire season. Just jumping that pass really well, being a little bit physical at the point of attack, right? And just showing good instincts and reading of the ball. Obviously, bobbled it a little bit, but doesn't matter when you're able to clean this game and seal this game off. So one of our candidates here for sure of this Kansas Wesleyan Scott in for freshman of the year squad, I should say. Now, last but certainly not least, as I said before, we have Addison Osborne out of Ottawa, your defending champs, 2-time champs, I should say, to start this NAIA football tradition. And, Addison Osborne was integral to this, especially in the postseason, being one of the best overall utility players in the entire country, showing chops at running back, showing chops at wide receiver, being one of the best shadow blockers in the entire, NAIA of football. And she's not even a center. She's not even a snapper. She's just a running back who, shadow blocks extremely well, gets her quarterback plenty of time, and just provides a lot of opportunities for the rest of her team to score, and serves as one of the most lethal dump-off options in the entire NAIA. Anytime she does get the ball in a little bit of space, she's very, very dangerous and can turn it upfield very quickly. And so, spoiler alert, Addison Osborne was the winner of the fan vote, and we'll get into the other votes here in a second. But here on Ottawa's website, we do have, I believe, what is full season stats here. And, sorry, just getting all of my sources and votes in order here. And here in the regular during the season, I should say, it says career rushing, which is fortunate for us because she's a freshman of the year candidate. she was a freshman this year. On 21 attempts, picked up 184 yards for 5 touchdowns rushing. Flag football is not a huge rushing game, but, to be able to average 8, yards per carry, pretty good. The long of 48 is obviously the dynamic play here and the big play capability that she has. Compound that with the long of 60 that she has for receiving yards and, the next 683 yards that she's able to tack on as a receiver on a pretty high volume of receptions. Like I said, a fantastic dump-off option for Madison Carrera. And, anybody who's back there at quarterback for this Braves squad, she just is capable of doing so much for this team. And, as far as scoring goes, she got it done this season. 13 touchdowns. Obviously, you saw the 5 rushing, the 8 receiving, and then, a couple of point after touchdowns. So, you have all that going for you. And then, defensively, this may not seem overwhelmingly impressive. The 8 flag pulls, the 1 pass deflection, and, not too much here in these other categories. But the truth of that is that, she was asked to step up in the national championship game, and she did exactly that. She delivered. She's somebody who has defensive capabilities, but with the offensive upside and the depth, obviously, that Ottawa has, is not necessarily called on as much to do so, but is capable of doing so. So to run through the candidates one more time and to go through our Twitter champion here, we obviously had Madison Tingen, Angel Roman, Caroline Simpson, and Addison Osborne. Addison Osborne just edging out Angel Roman here, 39.4 to 36.2% to capture the fan freshman of the year. So congratulations to Addison for winning the fan vote and winning the fan nominated Addison Osborne freshman of the year, Playmakers Corner. Yeah. All kinds of turned around here. But with that being said, this isn't necessarily the crown here from all of Playmakers Corner here, because we still have my vote, Coach V's vote, as well as, Corey and Matt over at NAIA Football. Go ahead and give them a follow here. I'm just going to look them up so that you have an idea of what you're looking for. These are the other two guys. They cover both NAIA tackle football as well as NAIA flag football. We've had great conversations throughout the entire year, just, being able to exchange resources and, collaborate very well. And we are so thankful to Matt and Corey for sending in their votes here. And with that being said, for freshman of the year, Corey would second the fan vote here and vote for Addie Osborne, as he put it, being her nickname, Addison Osborne. That makes it 2 votes here for Addison Osborne. And, obviously, Corey here feeling that same wave, getting those same vibes of just her utility, her performance down the stretch, especially in the championship, and, just at the Invitational, probably feeling that wave quite a bit still. So, excellent performances here from Addison to jump up to a 2-0 lead. However, this was not a shared opinion here by all the fellas at NAIA F-Ball, as Matt did vote for Angel Roman as his freshman of the year vote. So making it 2-1, and a competition here for sure in the KCAC. All that being said, I definitely think that all of these candidates, kudos and respect to all of them for having phenomenal years and, for being able to find a lot of playing time. And, we're going to have freshman playmakers at these other defensive spots. This is just exclusively here and maybe not a DPOY, OPOY, what have you kind of caliber. But, still great playmakers here. And I think I'm going to have to cast my personal vote for Angel Roman of the Kansas Wesleyan squad. Just being able to see how well she can split defenses whenever she's running seam routes as a receiver and just finding the open spots on the field. I think that she does an excellent job of showing a lot of IQ on the offensive side of the ball. But as a safety, just being able to force turnovers, take them back to the house, get large chunks of flag return yards for, this squad, and just be very solid. Pardon me. I got to address something real quick. Sorry, I meant to put knock. Or not knock. I meant to put quiet. Make sure to gift us some subs so that we can get a studio here and have a little bit more privacy. But anyways, Angel Roman, having watched, a lot of football this past season, and just players that immediately caught my eye, especially, as the season started, just thinking, who is that? Who is that? I think that Angel Roman and Madison Tingen both did a very good job of catching my attention. And then I'd say that Angel Roman, being able to play both sides of the ball very, very, very well, scoring on both sides of the ball, also, posing as a bit of a threat, potentially on special teams. All of those add up to a very, very complete player. And for that reason, I am casting my vote to Angel Roman. And that splits the vote 2-2. And for the final vote, it is Coach V, which I'm obviously sad that, he couldn't join us tonight. He had some things come up. And in addition to that, we had some really brave keyboard warriors on Tuesday night. So, if you wouldn't say it in person, you probably shouldn't say it. I'm just going to leave it at that. But for Freshman of the Year, Simon's tie-breaking vote, Coach V, is going to go with Addison Osborne here. Get excited, a little bit of applause here as, Ottawa, has a representative that gets this first category and wins it. And let's go ahead and read the reasoning here for Simon, as a lot of freshmen are considered here, but at the end of the day, Addie won me over in the national tournament. This Ottawa team was already great, but Addie added a dimension to their offense that could potentially lead them to many more national championships. Her big splash playability and high level of blocking earned her this vote. Also, shout out Texas Fury and Texas football. Simon always has to remind us that he's from Texas. But, I see his point of view completely, as did the fans. And obviously, Corey of NAIA ball, as, Addison, won the fan vote. As we mentioned, she put up solid numbers in basically every single category. And, in the national tournament, did play her tail off and was critical to them winning that tournament. And so, with all that being said, I say, as I'm going to type it out, your freshman, or 2022 freshman of the year is Addison Osborne in a 3-2 vote. Congratulations, Addison, and also congratulations to all of the players here. Obviously, there's a lot of talent amongst all of these players, and so it is just a great honor to talk about these players, cover these players, and, give them the spotlight as they're going to continue to make big plays. I wouldn't be surprised if I see a lot of these players here on, different lists next year. I'm looking highly. I think that Madison Tingen's upside is going to really rear itself, and, she's potentially going to be an offensive playmaker of the year candidate next year. I could almost I'm even going to predict that. I'm going to predict Madison Tingen as offensive playmaker of the year candidate material in the 2023 season. And either this is a really good clip that we're going to come back to, or forget that I said it. And then, obviously, Angel Roman's defensive playmaking can land her in a defensive playmaker of the year conversation. Caroline Simpson's ability on both sides of the ball can get you into the MVP conversation. And then same with Addison Osborne, just with the utility and versatility that she has, can land in a variety of spots. But she is your freshman of the year. All that being said, we're going to exit out of here, and we're not on this award yet. We are on this award. Okay, so for offensive playmaker of the year candidates, we're going to go Offensive Playmaker of the Year, Defensive Playmaker of the Year, and then Most Valuable Playmaker. And so in consideration for Offensive Playmaker of the Year, you have Brianna Hernandez Silva out of Kansas Wesleyan, who I had a typo when making the polls up, so sorry about that once again. The quarterback for Kansas Wesleyan, who was just an electric offensive athlete. Kennedy Foster, the player that I can't spotlight enough, a winner and recipient of the Character Award in the Sun Conference, coaching on the side, working a job, and then balling out on game days, racking up a ton of receptions and a bunch of receiving yards, including an ESPN moment. So there's that. Then you have Kayla Burrows out of Weber International. She was able to she was like a security blanket for this Weber team on offense, and when they needed a go-to play, she did exactly that. And speaking of go-to and versatile players, you can't talk about it without the voted on Sun Conference Offensive Player of the Year, Kiana Akol, who accounts for over 800 yards of offense in the regular season, being that she was asked to pass the ball. She was asked to run the ball and kill the clock with that classic Akol-Scott combo, and she also caught passes, as evidenced in the very first play of the championship game of Thomas versus Ottawa. So, we got, this is a pretty Sun Conference heavy conversation here, as opposed to the Freshman of the Year, more of a KCAC thing. Here in the Sun Conference, we got a lot of, representatives here for OPOY, and then, obviously Brianna Hernandez Silva. So I'm actually going to go from the back forwards here. This is kind of like an end of the season thing that Thomas put together. We're missing it as well. Man, the season really went by way too fast. But Kiana Akol, like I said, racked up over 800 yards of total offense. We actually have some stats in here, on the season, or at least in these recorded games, I should say. Throwing for 216 yards, 4 touchdowns to 2 picks. Rushing for 67, and this is how I know it's not the whole thing, because she did a lot of damage on the ground this year, for 2 touchdowns. Receiving, catching for 200 yards, and a score. Also returning some punts, and then, she also contributed on the defensive side of the ball. But, she was voted as, the athlete submission for the all-conference teams in the Sun Conference. So, or, my bad, this is the NAIA national tournament team. So, as an offensive athlete, she was voted that for the tournament, and she also was an all-Sun Conference player, as evidenced by her ability to win Sun Conference Player of the Year, right? Or Offensive Player of the Year, I should say. And, make sure to go ahead and give her a follow on Twitter. You have her right here. This is the over 800 yards in just one season. She's a freshman, so she could have been a Freshman of the Year candidate, but she did just enough to push into the Offensive Playmaker of the Year conversation. So, a little bit of a bridge there, a little bit of a line, and did not play like a freshman, but definitely balled out, like an experienced vet here. So go ahead and give her a follow on Twitter. And look at that, all-tournament team. What a baller. And, Kiana was integral to this team winning the Sun Conference, as they were crowned Sun Conference champions, and able to help this team also make it to the end of the year tournament. So that's Kiana Akol of Thomas University, Nighthawks football. And next, we're talking about Kayla Burrows, in the regular season, 10 touchdown, nearly 60 reception, 1,000 yard owning receiver who, also was used as an offensive weapon and just did a multitude of things right here. So jumping over to Kayla here she is. I mean, look, she gets it done on both sides of the ball, because here she is winning a Defensive Player of the Week, right? With a bunch of interception, return yards, and, just like defensive touchdowns, obviously. But we're talking about her on the offensive side of the ball. During the regular season, racking up 73 rushing yards and a touchdown, but the 562 receiving yards and the 10 receiving touchdowns, including 3 touchdown performances on only 4 receptions, mind you, in both those games. Kayla Burroughs made a name for herself for us here at the podcast, as well as, the entire country. And, I would say was the best offensive weapon for this Weber team, and one that, definitely alters the win total of this team over the course of the season for the better. And on top of what she's asked to do defensively, I think that, her ability to flagpole on the defensive side of the ball makes her invaluable here. But being the security blanket on the offensive side of the ball for, an incoming quarterback and one who has to, gain confidence, Kayla Burroughs helped do exactly that and helped produce a handful of wins for this Weber team. 10 touchdowns. That's pretty irreplaceable output. So, that's Kayla Burroughs. Up next, we have the Sports Center soaring Kennedy Foster, who we actually did a breakdown of once upon a time, so go ahead and give that a listen. But here she is right here. This is against Midland, and whoop! Oh my goodness. You can't spell oh my goodness without Odell Beckham style catch. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Hey, get out of here. Look at the extension, the verticality, the positioning, everything about this to help her quarterback out and reel this one in and drag the toe to just scoot into the back of the end zone. And that wasn't the only thing that she did that night. As you can tell by this article here, 15 receptions, 138 yards. Well, through multiple reps, and 5 touchdowns over 2 games for Kaiser. So, and that wasn't the only time that she did it over the year, as we do have her stats pulled up. And 5 touchdowns out of 15 on the year. She just had an incredible season, including a 4 touchdown performance against Midland, and then a handful of 2 touchdown performances. And throughout the season, constantly flirted with double-digit receptions, right? Proving to be a security blanket in this very first game against Thomas. 12 receptions, 97 yards, a score. Obviously, this game against Midland that we talked about, she just popped off, went completely insane, takeover mode, and recorded that 100-yard night, which would be the first one until a couple weeks later at Weber International, where she recorded 115 yards and constantly was moving the chains. And the thing about Kennedy Foster is she's such a smart football player. Like, she understands where she has to be on the field to get a reception. She understands where the first down marker is. And, she's gone against some really tough cornerbacks in, this Sun Conference. We're going to talk about Tashumba Washington later. And, just the physicality of some of these defenses in the Sun Conference is enough to make anyone go insane, but not Kennedy Foster. These defenses have to play physical because of players like Kennedy Foster, who can torch you over the top, who can get a lot of yards after the catch, who can, be trusted to maybe run like a double pass and things like that. So, Kennedy Foster, she had an incredible season. Let's see, can I play this without sound? Yeah. Here we actually have an interview, I want to say, with Kennedy Foster, talking about
Flag football burst onto the
talking about Kaiser and the run that they had. So go ahead and check that out on Yahoo. But Kennedy Foster just leveling both in the Sun and outside the Sun Conference through the air. All this being said, this brings me to my last point here. My last player to talk about, Kansas Wesleyan's very own Brianna Hernandez Silva. Look, she's had 6 touchdown performances. She's had, I'm just going to let the highlight reel kind of speak for itself as, we kind of go over some of the votes here a little bit. But Brianna Hernandez Silva, just through the regular season in conference only, so this is a very limited focus of stats here. She recorded 1,127 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. This is regular season only. 622 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. So just between those, she's already, putting herself in an upper echelon But then you also look at the stats from the beginning of this video that have been constantly repeated to me, and my face has been drugged through it, that she led the nation in rushing yards. Obviously, having that upside of being able to throw it or run it. 1,200 passing yards and 800 rushing yards, totaling for a 2,000-yard player. And I mean, let's just watch some of the film of some of these passes that she's able to make. You know, that's a touchdown pass. This is against Midland. I think this is the 6th touchdown game. Honestly, they love running the speed option, and she has the speed to make defenses pay for it. Here, you got her going against Kodey. What a great throw just over the defender. This is another big-time performance against Kodey as well. What a tough catch, obviously. Here she is dancing around, and she'll keep her eyes downfield, and then she'll throw a pump fake when you think that she's finally going to commit to the pass, and then burn you with her legs, right? So you can't play her too conservatively, or she's going to burn you. Has very good knowledge of the first down, very fluid hips for making quick cuts, sweet jukes, and overall just delivering in a multitude of ways for this, Coyote squad here. All of that being said, that makes the 4 candidates: Hernandez Silva, Foster, Burrows, and Cole. And since we ended with Simon's vote last time, we're going to begin with Coach V's vote here. And, Simon here has voted for Brianna Hernandez Silva, and for the reasoning, Simon puts, Foster was a strong and close second place for me, but I really do respect Hernandez Silva here. There were games throughout the season where she absolutely took over, and her dual threat ability really made the KW offense dangerous on a couple levels. I will very much miss watching her and her fellow senior quarterback Jasmine Roden play football. But if they do play pro football, you best bet I'll find a way to make the games. So, obviously 2 senior quarterbacks who balled out, and it looks like I was sent film here of her highlights, but luckily I was able to find it first. So that's already a vote here for Brianna Hernandez Silva, and we're going to go through and talk about some of the other votes here. And, there's a little bit of a disagreement here, and these votes are pretty spread out. And for Offensive Player of the Year here at NAIA F-Ball, you have Corey, who I will say wanted to put Cynthia here for Offensive Playmaker of the Year. So that is like a half vote for Cynthia. But out of the 4 candidates, he did choose Kiana Cole because, just the versatility on offense, everything she was able to accomplish, rushing and catching and throwing even, and just being a very coachable player for this TU squad, lands a vote for Kiana Cole here. And just to spice things up here a little bit, there is another vote that is going to be different here. And for Offensive Playmaker of the Year, Matt of NAIA F-Ball votes for Kennedy Foster, the wide receiver out of Kaiser. Obviously, SportsCenter top 10 athlete, at the number 1 play, and, catching for a gang of yards this year, being virtually uncoverable. What's there to really not like about Kennedy Foster's season? And, everything that she was able to accomplish, no matter what the matchup was here. And so, with that being said, we have 3 votes, all split 1-1-1-1, okay? And I will like to remind everyone that the tiebreaker vote is whoever the fan vote is. So, if there is a tie, the fans are the tie-breaking vote. And so we will go to the fans and determine what that looks like. And the fans here voted for Brianna Hernandez Silva. I'm saving the percentage for a reason here. But they did vote for Hernandez Silva, racking up a lot of votes. Thank you for all the love on social media. Obviously, Kansas Wesleyan. And, obviously that was courtesy of a major, major season that she put in, both on the ground and through the air. My vote is going to Kennedy Foster, for just being just the best off the field. I mean, that is what she was voted by the Sun Conference for, just having great character, showing love for the game. I mean, there are other, of these collegiate athletes that do coach as well on the side. But just the way she's able to balance all that and be an incredible student all at the same time is mind-boggling, because, I mean, I could barely handle working a job and being a student, let alone a college athlete and a coach at the same time. There's really nothing that Kennedy Foster can't do, both on and off the field. As far as, the routes that you ask her to run, she can run them against anybody. She can find daylight anywhere, whether it's near the goal line or far away, and rip off really long passes. I mean, just super duper dynamic. And on top of, that 818 yards receiving, she did tack on another 113 punt returning. So, sniffing that 1,000-yard club was a really big deal. But with the votes tied 2-2 between Kennedy Foster and Brianna Hernandez Silva, and the tie-breaking vote, oh my gosh, I'm kicking myself in the butt for this typo, by the way. But the tie-breaking vote goes to the fans here, and the fans have decided that your offensive playmaker of the year is Brianna Hernandez Silva, the quarterback for Kansas Wesleyan. And I'm going to put that in the chat here. Go ahead and react, add in some, context if you'd like. But that is the offensive playmaker of the year is, and I'm not going to do it wrong this time. I'm not going to put an E this time. Shout out to Coach Klein. But anyways, Brianna Hernandez Silva, via fan vote tiebreaker. That is we've used this same grade for end of the year awards on the 1 through 5A level for Colorado high school football. And I think that the method is tried and true for what the tiebreaker is going to be and why it's going to be that. And with Hernandez Silva, I mean, the stats speak for itself. 2,000 total yards, leading rusher in the country, on top of, just scoring so many touchdowns throughout the season. I mean, having, 20... Sorry, a little lost here. Having, 28 touchdowns through the regular season in conference only, and then you include their trip to Florida and, the invitational, and I think that she starts messing around with 40 total touchdowns. So just a really dynamic athlete putting in a historic season for Kansas Wesleyan here and being crowned the offensive playmaker of the year. And thank you to KWU for sending forth her film. But that will do it for our offensive playmaker of the year. Now, talking about defense. Defense wins championships. That's what we've been told. And we have championship participating players and championship caliber players here in the talk for defensive playmaker of the year. And, even two of them being from the same team. And those two from Nighthawks football are Jada Reese and Janae Scott. Let's see here. Interacting live with fans and with social media accounts here. Oh, also sent here. Oh, look at that graphic. Look at that graphic. Thank you so much, Kansas Wesleyan. I have to show this to the camera, but I don't know how the camera looks. Okay, so let's check that out here. Let's see. Can you see that? Come on, catch up to me. Come on. Okay. Well, we will be reposting that on our stories because that is a pretty sweet edit here. And I just looked like a boomer trying to show you guys a picture on my phone is what I realized. But obviously, congrats to Hernandez Silva, and thank you, KWU, for that graphic. And maybe we'll get a graphic from whoever wins this Defensive Playmaker of the Year. As, we have two candidates, both from Thomas. Hopefully they don't eat out each other's votes here, or eat away or take away from each other's votes. That tends to happen when, teammates are, both in the same award category here. And that can be true for Jada Reese, obviously a revolutionary rusher here in this second NAIA football season, and unlike one that we may ever see again. And then Janae Scott, the linebacker with impeccable flag pulling. But Furthering on that, we also have the defensive back Tashumba Washington, our first St. Thomas, 2 teams with St. to start, St. Thomas candidate, and boy, did she draw some large assignments and step up big time against basically every wide receiver one through NAIA football, and did so through incredible athleticism, great football IQ, and excellent flag pulling as well. So some of the best flag pullers belong to St. Thomas. And so, we were definitely looking at some St. Thomas players for this Defensive Playmaker of the Year candidacy. But, Tashumba Washington makes her appearance and St. Thomas's appearance on these lists. And then last but certainly not least, Abby Brown of Ottawa. So, we got a couple of different big-time playmakers here. I just realized that I am on the MVP tab and that we need to jump over to the DPOY tab. And, it's going to exit out of here. Let's go ahead and just start from the top here with the order that, we wrote these down in. And talk about Jada Reese, this rusher who, these stats aren't indicative of exactly how much she did. Look, it says 6 total sacks here and 6 tackles for loss. There's one game where she had 5 sacks at least and was a constant drive killer. And she would do that week in and week out. I was blown away. And, as a Denver Bronco fan and somebody who grew up watching Von Miller and, watching him win, an MVP in the Super Bowl, I love me pass rushers. And Jada Reese is one who's super athletic. She can chase down the best of the best as far as quarterbacks who can scramble. She's a great flag puller. She does a great job of squaring up, but also being able to athletically make some crazy angles and reaches of flag pulls to, sack the quarterback. She's insanely fast off the line. Like one of the quickest first steps in all of college football. In all of college football, tackle or flag. So that first step is lethal and, led to her being an absolute game wrecker here for Thomas. She racked up, Playmakers of the Week, or, Playmakers of the Week. Yeah, I said that right. As well as, hey, what is going on here? Replay this. Oh, this is a Janae Scott thing. Racking up Playmakers of the Week, as well as Sun Conference Player of the Week awards, and, recognition from the Sun Conference itself. The same can be said about Janae Scott, who obviously posted up some good rushing numbers here. She was a part of that Cole Scott combo that was so lethal and would just constrict opponents at the end of games. But it's what she was able to do on the defensive side of the ball. And this is just a handful of stats, but you can see she's averaging, close to like 10 flag pulls a game. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was legitimately her average through the season, because Janae Scott, speaking of reliable flag pullers, right? She was a member of the NAIA all-tournament team. Obviously, she was all-conference and, just did a lot of, different things that were asked of her throughout the season. And, I haven't watched this yet from the girls flag football preseason classic. Let's go to theater mode. We don't need to look at recommended here. But, there she is with football. Obviously, at running back, did a phenomenal job for Thomas, constricting teams this year as they, just went crazy during the regular season and during the Sun Conference tournament, seeming virtually unstoppable. Their only loss was to St. Thomas during the entire regular season. And, this was done on the heels of the great success that was Janae Scott here. Look at that flagpole right here, breaking down, super athletic, and just being able to make a lot of very smart football plays, all right? And her capabilities on the defensive side of the ball are going to give offenses headaches for years to come. And the same can be said about the freshman, I'm pretty sure, Tashumba Washington. Here we have a whole article talking about how, she just made a handful of plays here. Oh, game highlights? Oh, no, that's not a link. 3 interceptions. Hello? Just her ability to time the ball. 2 interceptions before a half ends. And, eventually 4 interceptions and it was her second one of the season. I mean, you have DJ here, making plays as well. But Francois, my bad. I don't know why I said DJ. But I mean, Tashumba, obviously 2 4-interception performances. That's unheard of. And you don't get that without incredible anticipation. Also, this pick is so cold, low-key. But, she's won Defensive Player of the Week in the Sun Conference. She's gotten all-conference recognition. In 1 week, 5 interceptions. 2 of them were pick sixes, right? I mean, just an ability to make so many plays. Get out of here. For this STU squad. And integral on why they were so solid on defense. Because, I mean, if you have a defender that can just absolutely erase a single threat on offense, it makes the rest of everyone's jobs easier because you don't have to worry about doubling someone. It's no, Tashumba can handle that. You don't have to worry about, exchanging coverages because you don't know if they can go across the field. No, Tashumba can handle that. Her IQ for the game of football and her anticipation make her not only a defensive playmaker of the year kind of prospect, but also a consideration for a most valuable playmaker just through defensive efforts. And, if you're able to do that, that is something incredibly special and something that we had to recognize here on the pod. So, moving forward, though, we have last but certainly not least, Abby Brown of Ottawa. Obviously, this film is pretty old here, but I just wanted to play something here. Abby was asked to do it all for this Ottawa team. She had a bunch of flagpoles, make that 94 flagpoles, 2 sacks, 7 interceptions, and 18 pass deflections. She's able to do whatever is asked of her, which obviously makes her incredibly easy to coach and makes her invaluable to this Braves defense, who, eventually went on to win a championship. And, she also made some plays in that championship game in this 2022 season is what I'm talking about. And, made some touchdown-saving flagpoles and, made the game-sealing interception in the championship game by jumping this route, right? So, hey, get out of here. I just don't want to end up on one of these huddle playlists. It's like a spiral that never ends. And if you don't believe me, here are the stats, literally right here, right? So she has the numbers to back up her contributions and her versatility on the defensive side of the ball. And, this versatility was enough to warrant a vote from Matt of NAIA F-Ball voting for Abby Brown here as his Defensive Playmaker of the Year candidate. And, I mean, how could you not with that impressive resume that she put forth and, just everything she was able to accomplish on defense and the versatility. I mean, versatility is invaluable for any football player, and for Abby to be able to do it so well and just be so coachable is just spectacular. I mean, was there a video in here? I mean, look at this. I mean, these people's lives here at Ottawa are like a movie. So, and while we're here, we're going to check out, Julian Mendez here says, easy vote, scariest player on defense and nicest person off the field. So he agreed with Matt here and voted Abby Brown on his poll. Let's see how it stacks up with the rest of fans here. And the fans are going to second Matt here, putting Abby Brown at a 2-0 lead on this Defensive Playmaker of the Year spot as she captures 61.1% of the vote. I mean, look, you have some Janae Scott getting 20.8%, 13% from Jada Reese. You could argue that these players might be eating each other's votes, but even combined in the fan vote, they're sitting at 33%, nearly 34%. Abby Brown almost doubles that by herself. And, the Ottawa, nation shows out very strong on our Twitter polls. Make sure that, if you're one of these programs, that you promote your players and try and retweet it, or, point us in the direction of your players if we can't find their social media because maybe they have a different username or something along those lines. But congratulations to Abby Brown for being named the Fan Defensive Playmaker of the Year. which is only half the accomplishment. Only half, right? You have the fan vote, which matters, and it gets recognition. But how does it fare to the rest of the votes here? And so, that being said, we do have a swing in the other direction towards Jada Reese's contributions on the defensive side of the ball, as Corey of NAIA football voted for Jada Reese being one of the best pass rushers in the nation. And, that is a vote that is seconded by Coach V here. And let's go ahead and read Coach V's reasoning for voting Jada Reese. A lot of great players were in consideration here. Yes, this was the hardest vote for me personally, because all these players, I love defense getting recognition, especially, in a game of flag football that's so offensive based, offensive heavy, lots of passing. Who makes an impact on the defensive side of the ball? Who slows down all these dynamic athletes that are on the offensive side of the ball causing havoc? And I got to agree here with Simon that it is, a tough vote. This was a very tough vote. It wasn't a landslide like this for the people on the other side of the screen here, outside of the fan vote. And here Simon puts, but Jada Reese was a key part of this elite defense. The way she played in the Ottawa game was nearly perfect, and I would have personally gave her MVP if they won the national championship. Even before the national tournament, though, she won Thomas a lot of games and terrorized plenty of offenses. We're extremely lucky to get to see her and this defense run it back this year. And so, this was a sentiment that was shared, obviously, throughout the regular season for women's flag football and, just the impact that all these players had, especially when talking about Playmaker of the Week candidacies and, who jumped out to us. Tashumba Washington was a player who jumped out to us. Janae Scott, with a bunch of flag pulls and pick sixes in very close games, was a player who jumped out to us. Abby Brown's defensive prowess was something that jumped out to us. This was a very common conversation throughout the year for us here in the studio and behind the scenes, and just wondering, how are we going to, properly award some of these players, right? And how do we properly recognize, some of these players and what they were able to do during the regular season, right? And then you look at the postseason and see who is able to carry over this success. And all of these players carry over their success to the postseason, and it makes it even harder every single time. We cannot catch a break on who to choose for this Defensive Playmaker of the Year candidacy. That being said, we do have the vote split 2-2, and it comes down to Coach Kodey. I thought I had it decided, but then I looked at the names again. Oh, this makes it so hard. Gosh, this is a really hard vote. But I am going to crown, with the deciding vote, I am going to crown Jada Reese. Going back and forth there one more time as I'm literally deciding. It's final. Jada Reese is your Defensive Playmaker of the Year. And it's because I don't think there is a single player in the country that was more dominant at the job that they were given than Jada Reese. Multiple multi-sack games throughout the season. Tons of flag pulls in the backfield if she wasn't able to get sacks. Constantly in the face of running backs and quarterbacks. Basically, if you were going against Thomas, you were going to be throwing under pressure because of Jada Reese. And there was no team that could really game plan for her. We saw her slow down a little bit at times in this Ottawa game, in the national championship. But even then, she still found ways to get pressure on Madison Carrera, still found ways to get flag pulls in the background, had tons of sacks throughout the national tournament, had tons of tackles for loss through the national tournament. She was able to do it on every single stage possible. And to have, I seriously think that there's going to be a Jada Reese effect where people are investing a lot of recruiting towards pass rushers. I think that she's changed it that much, and has proven that rusher can. If your rusher's good, the rest of your team. Granted, Thomas was pretty stacked on all levels, but if your rusher's really good, the rest of your team has a lot of slack. I've seen rushers throughout this year just get absolutely shunned by shadow blockers that are just standing in one place. Against Jada Reese, they're shuffling back and forth, and she still manages to beat them with, various athletic jukes, cuts, rips, swims, spins, what have you. She has a big bag of, moves to get into the backfield, rush the quarterback, get those hands up, occasionally bat some passes, and, earn our respect throughout the year with Playmaker of the Week awards, and just being an overall unit throughout the season for Thomas. So, that being said, your 2022 Defensive Playmaker of the Year is Jada Reese. Boom. This one is also 3-2. There's no easy votes. I just realized that every vote has been decided 3-2. I don't think it'll be the same on this last one, but it's worth the conversation here as we do jump over to the biggest, the baddest, most valuable Playmaker award here. And we have some insane candidates who contributed for a lot of these candidates on both sides of the ball or just very, very well on one side. Brittany Delva. What is there to not say about Delva? Look, Offensive Player of the Week win here, grad student, right? And, this was during their regular season game against Ottawa that they did win, where she scored all 3 of Thomas's touchdowns. But she was also a monster on the defensive side of the ball as well, racking up a season high in that same game of 13 flagpoles, getting sacks, getting interceptions. So not only does she have the versatility of, some of our best defensive players. I mean, our runner-up, right, of Defensive Playmaker of the Year, Abby Brown. Not only does Delva reflect those impacts on the defensive side of the ball in every facet of the game, but she also does the same thing on the offensive side of the ball, scoring a bunch of touchdowns, picking up crucial yards, making, she's been asked to pass this year. You know what I mean? This was one example, but also being an insane receiver and, throughout the season, getting looks, just various looks throughout the season for this Thomas squad. And what a cool gif, by the way. Brittany Delva, look, when you have a team that makes it to the championship, you're going to have somebody on our list for most valuable playmaker. And man, for Thomas, look, they had 2 candidates at Defensive Playmaker of the Year. If you think that we weren't talking about putting them in most valuable playmaker, I don't know what to tell you. Kiana Cole, another player that we talked about. Hey, is she going to be in the conversation for most valuable playmaker, right? But above it all, Brittany Delva's, high level of impact in big games on both sides of the ball slides her into this spot for most valuable playmaker. To read off the other candidates before getting too crazy, we also have Cynthia Holmes of Warner, Jasmine Roden of Kaiser, and Madison Carrera of Ottawa. And so I'm just going to go ahead and bounce back to this next one. Look, Cynthia Holmes, there's literally nothing that she couldn't do this year. Sorry for getting super worked up. But 122 receptions? That's that usage rate is insane on just the offensive side of the ball. 122 touches, right? Nearly 1,500 yards and 25 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, she matches her receptions and won for 123 flagpoles and 7 interceptions. Warner winning games this year. Obviously, shout out to the rest of their squad and Madison Tidgeon. But Warner winning games this year and competing against big-time talent hinged a lot on Cynthia being able to make plays in double coverage, being able to pull down passes in triple coverage, being able to pick up yards that just weren't there, being able to duck, dive, dip, and dodge her way for more yards, winning, even as far as being crowned the 2022 Sun Conference Player of the Year, right? That's where Cynthia Holmes is in regard to respect in the Sun Conference, and that's why we have to recognize her here and now for everything that she was able to accomplish, and just being, I can't think of another way of saying that she could literally do everything. I mean, just great athleticism, great field awareness, great hands, obviously, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, and incredible cardio, being able to play all of these snaps and impact the game at that level. That's something that we may never see again. Well, until she does it again next year. If they still have her running both sides. So, obviously, that makes 2 Sun Conference candidates here thus far. And we're going to go ahead and hop over to the KCAC for our third candidate here. That is Madison Carrera, the quarterback of Ottawa University, throwing for 3,597 yards, 54 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, while also adding on 859 rushing yards and 18 rushing. Excuse me, my level of excitement's getting better of my hydration habits. But look, Madison, seeing her play throughout the year, it was super evident that there wasn't really a whole lot that could slow her down. And as we got into the postseason, she just kept rolling, catching more and more fire, and made the throws that mattered to help Ottawa go back-to-back here. She also rose to the occasion in the biggest games of the year and was, one of the best players on literally the best team in the country, and utilized her weapons very well. Very smart quarterback, obviously, 54-11. That's a fantastic ratio, and one that I think she could do again and again and again and again. She's just so insanely talented, and I want to say like a 4-time Playmaker of the Week award winner, and as well as our Playmaker, offensive list. So, super dominant, super prominent, Madison Carrera. But not to be outdone or not to be silenced, right? Jazz, oh my goodness. I could have been playing her highlights this whole time. Oh my gosh. Oh, whatever. Okay, look. We're going to look through this anyways. But, obviously she was pretty pumped for, and a good teammate. Look. Vote for Addie. Retweeting the vote for Abby, right? But anyways, not to be outdone, not to be forgotten, Jasmine Roden, the phenom quarterback for Kaiser University, who helped lead to, I want to say, a 13-4, 13-3 season record. Not to be outdone, 2,680 passing yards. Less passing yards, yeah. 66 touchdowns, though, to 11 interceptions. A 6-to-1 TD to INT ratio. Holy cow. That is a phenomenally smart quarterback, and one who could also, occasionally pick up a first down here. 114 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. And I believe this is Sun Conference only stats. If we go ahead and look at her season here, it has season longs, then it has season totals right here. There's that 2680, that, or 36 touchdowns, my bad. I think, 36 touchdowns. So, actually, like a 3-to-1, but still an incredible ratio. And, one that she's been able to do, offensively. Look, last year, she had just about 2,000 yards, improved in that aspect. Here, throwing 33 touchdowns last year, so improving her touchdowns as well, while only adding on a couple more interceptions, but throwing for like 600 more yards. Incredible growth and performance out of Jasmine Roden here, who is a huge part in, Kaiser being able to make it to the Sun Conference final, being able to make it to the semifinals of the Invitational, and things like that. I know that we had one fan, tweet, hey, vote the obvious choice here, Jasmine Roden. So, speaking of fans, though, let's go ahead and check out the fan vote here and see where that landed. And so the fan vote lands at 43.3%, and just edges out Jasmine Roden here, as well as Cynthia and Brittany here. Look, Madison Carrera, she did it on the biggest stage. That makes it a really easy vote for fans. And, that's out of 353 votes, so that is a dang good amount of votes here for Madison Carrera. And once again, Ottawa showing out on social medias to help promote their players. I'm going to speak here real quick and cast what is the sole vote here that's not necessarily Madison here. I'm going to vote for Cynthia Holmes here because, look, that output on the offensive and defensive side of the football is absurd. I would be worried if they ever put this kind of output again. And, this is obviously very different sports, right? But being a Russell Westbrook fan and, a player that can do it all and just leaves everything on the field every single play, that was Cynthia Holmes this year. And you want to talk about valuable? How invaluable is 122 receptions and 123 flagpoles? Irreplaceable production. If any other team in the country had Cynthia, look, I don't think that she maybe gets the same production because of looks or whatever, but every team in the country would want to have Cynthia on their squad, right? You could say the same about, these other candidates, but you can go back and forth on, who do I want to be my quarterback? Maybe does it depend on the talent around them? Who do I want to be my running back or wide receivers, right? You can go back and forth on that all day. But Cynthia here is a no-brainer because, she can contribute at such a high level on both sides of the ball that no matter what, look, the reason that she's a most valuable playmaker candidate is because she was an offensive playmaker of the year candidate for me. She was a defensive playmaker of the year candidate for me. She's a freshman, so she was a freshman playmaker of the year category, candidate for me. And for me personally, if you are a candidate for all three categories, you're the most valuable playmaker. Now, it's okay that this sentiment isn't shared by me, and no disrespect to who does win this award. It has nothing to do with these other players. It's me being in total awe of just the performance that Cynthia has here. And, Madison Carrera, who we're going to talk about more here in a second, championship-winning quarterback. Being the best player at the most important position is important. And that's why Madison Carrera is so impactful and, struck so many chords here throughout this voting process. Jasmine Roden, obviously, somebody who's been doing it for a while, improved from last year on a really good squad and helped, keep Kaiser as a contender. And then, obviously, Brittany Delva being one of the best players on a contending team. But I still don't think any of them can accomplish maybe what Cynthia did and the level of which that she did it to. It's absurd. It's absurd. The disbelief that I have is what lands Cynthia Holmes my vote. But transitioning back to the other votes here, NAIA ball here. That's a sweep here from Corey and Matt for Madison Carrera. Obviously, you can see the influence of the very last tournament, fresh on people's minds, both on the fans' minds, both on the media's minds in, obviously, NAIA ball, which, by the way, if you haven't, go ahead and give them a follow here. But that wasn't all, as, she jumped up to 3-1. It's impossible to catch up to this point. But let's go ahead and read Coach V's take on Madison Carrera. And, the final vote has already been cast by NAIF ball. But let's hear the 4-1, the only 4-1 winning of a vote, by the way. And that's from Coach V stating, honestly, leading into the national tournament, this one was more or less a four-way tie between the candidates. And I know, because we talked on the phone, we're like, dude, who do we go with here? And I know that he was talking Cynthia, he was talking Brittany. He's always been a huge Jasmine Roden fan. If he could get a jersey of Jasmine, I'm sure that he would rock that everywhere. Well, in his words, I would take a jersey from every single player just to make me look bad. But anyways, as he continues, quote, but it takes a truly excellent player to make the play she did in this tournament against the best in the entire country. 2 defensive playmaker of the year candidates, an MVP candidate. having to match the output of an offensive playmaker of the year candidate. Both these teams were very stacked, and once we got into the tournament, it was very apparent that these two teams were going to meet up, right, in Ottawa and Thomas for a second time. But continuing, back to Simon's quote. Quote, she's worked hard and improved this season as well. Football is a team sport, but national champions start with the leaders. And I respect the heck out of all these votes, and I respect the heck out of all these candidates, but that does make the 2022 most, oh goodness, I forgot how to type, valuable playmaker award goes to Madison Carrera. Boom. Of Ottawa, 4-2-1. Now, I do want to release some graphics of my own, but I will have to edit all those. But just as a recap here, freshman of the year, Addison Orsburn wins that 3-2. The candidates who I want to put some respect on here included Angel Roman, Caroline Simpson, and Madison Tingen of Kansas Wesleyan, St. Mary's, and Warner, respectively. Your offensive playmaker of the year is Brianna Hernandez Silva with the fan vote tiebreaker in what was the closest vote, right? No, because it was like 2-2-1. It was 2-2-1. Oh, I should actually put that. Oh, no, it's fine. You get the fan vote tiebreaker. But 2-2-1, Brianna Hernandez Silva wins that over, the other two vote recipient, Kennedy Foster, the wide receiver of Kaiser, Caleb Burrows, the offensive weapon of Weber, and Kiana Cole, the Sun Conference Offensive Player of the Year, who earned one vote from NAIA F-Ball. So just reminding people as we go of how the votes were split up. Defensive Playmaker of the Year, really, really tough category. Excellent talent. Obviously in all these categories, actually. I don't even know why I'm saying that. Jada Reese, Janae Scott, Tashumba Washington, and Abby Brown being your candidates. And it coming down to Janae Scott, knocking on that door and, seeding that path for Jada Reese to earn more of these votes for Thomas defenders. And, combined might to beat out Abby Brown here in a vote of 3-2 for Jada Reese, the rusher who's changing flag football as we know. And finally, with a vote of 4-1, Madison Carrera beats out Brittany Delva, Cynthia Holmes, recipient of my vote, and Jasmine Roden for most valuable playmaker. First off, just quick round of applause here for all of these incredible athletes here this past season for women's flag football on the NAIA level. I can't wait to see more teams that are joining, more players being recruited. You better hop on the train because it will leave without you. And, shout out to Coach V for, putting together these lists and his reasoning. Shout out to the NAIA F-Ball guys. And shout out to you, the fans who followed us on Twitter, put in your votes, shared the polls, made sure that they got around, and that everybody could contribute their thoughts, including your very thoughts for this, that, ended up being some determinants of votes and how they fell out. So, thank you guys so much for contributing and for following us on Twitter at Playmaker Corner. There we are. Make sure to follow us if you haven't already as we continue to cover more football. We are also on Instagram. Look, check us out. Thank you so much for getting us up to this level of following. And, we will announce all of our new episodes on here through that. If you want to find us on other places, go ahead and check out the link tree. Look, we're on TikTok. That's fun. Hey, we're on YouTube. That's where this stream is going to be if you weren't able to find us on Twitch. Hey, we're on Twitch. Hey, there we are. This is about to get too meta, so I'm not going to do that. You want to listen to us? Hey, you can find us on Spotify. Playmakers Corner. Hey, check us out. Plenty of things to listen to. This will be on Spotify, or you're listening to this on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor. You know what I mean? There's plenty of ways to find us and listen to us and observe us. Obviously, if you're on Twitch, We would love if you could gift subs or, maybe send over some bits as we try and, gain back and are able to compensate our time a little bit here. But also, a little bit of a hiatus here, but there's still plenty of great TikToks to watch, both of girls flag football content as well as Colorado high school football content for tackle football. And hopefully we'll be covering flag football in the fall, but we will see. But I have been your host for this episode, Kodey Stoffer. Thank you so much for joining and tuning in, and peace.